בן אדם, העצבות עולה ביוקר, השמחה שבלב היא חינם. אז מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים.
My mother has a favorite sort of joke that she likes to tell. She says that when my father's on a business trip, my father goes away often to like conferences and business trips. She says when my father's away, then let's say she has to open up a jar of tomato sauce. So she says, first she starts out, she tries with her hands, it doesn't work. So then she'll get a towel, and she'll try and do it with the towel, it doesn't work. So then she tries banging, turning it upside down and banging it on the counter like we all do. Tries again, it doesn't work. So then she gets like a can opener, she tries, doesn't work. So then she'll go into the basement, go into the cellar, get a hammer, and she comes back, and she does it, and with the back of the hammer, she's finally able to open up the tomato sauce. She said, but my mom says, but then what happens when my father's around, and when my father's in the house? So my mom says, she'll take the jar of tomato sauce, she'll try a little bit, give sort of a half-hearted sort of spin to try and open it up. Doesn't work. So then, what's her next, plan of action? She says, Matthew, I can't do this on my own, you gotta help me. So, there's another similar story that my teacher, Harabbani Yemima Mizrahi, is very fond of telling. She says, imagine that your husband is away. Your husband's away at reserve duty. This is in Israel, in reserve duty or on a business trip, and it's 7 p.m. So 7 p.m. and by 7 p.m. You have all of your kids. You've fed them dinner, given them baths, put pajamas on everyone. Read everyone at least 3 bedtime stories, and everybody, by 7 p.m., the house is, everyone's asleep, the house is spotless, you have all the lunches prepared for tomorrow, and you're just sitting there, like, reading Psalms. Like, by 7 p.m., you're just looking at your watch, and you're thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the night? Like, I have nothing else to do. Like, everything's all done. Alternatively, what happens when your husband is in town, your husband isn't away, and your husband walks in the door at 7 p.m. He's just come home from work, or he's come home from Mariv services, and so he walks in the door, and the kids haven't eaten dinner, they're all swinging on the chandeliers and running around, and the house is a mess, and you're just pulling your hair out and saying, honey, where have you been? I can't do this on my own, you gotta help me, like the kids are driving me crazy. So I think that all of us can relate to this, can relate to these stories on a certain level. And there's something wonderful about these funny stories, and that they give us a sense of that how much we love our husbands, and how much our husbands help us, and how much our husbands support us. But I think that there's also a problematic aspect of these stories, and there's something that you see happens fairly frequently, which can be a very, very problematic and very, very, I believe, dangerous aspect of becoming dependent on our husbands, is that we can very easily become resentful of our husbands. When I was first married, any of you who know my husband know that he's a person who is very, very passionate about everything that he does. If he's learning Torah, he's on fire with it. If he's, working, he's on fire with working, and, thank God he teaches Torah, so he's on fire with teaching Torah, and so when we were first married, I was taking care of a few little children, and my husband would come back at the end of the day, and I would be extremely resentful. Here I am the whole day, I'm taking care of kids, and I'm cleaning, and I'm, taking care of the house. And I haven't been having the greatest time. And my husband, walks in pumped and on fire with all the great, fascinating, exciting things that he's been doing the whole day. And, and I'm just sort of like this, and I haven't been enjoying my day. I've just been doing things that I didn't want to do. And I would feel resentful. And it sounds a bit strange, but I was resentful that my husband wasn't making me happy. And several years, after we'd been married, actually married for several more years, I went to a class. It was a class on marriage that totally changed my marriage and totally changed my life. It was a class on, I believe, 10 easy ways to have a better marriage. And I came in late to the class, so basically the only thing that I learned out of those 10 easy ways was this idea that totally changed my life. The rabbi who was speaking, his name was Rabbi Tabak, and he explained that once several years before, he had met a mother of a very large family. She was a mother of 12 children, and her husband had a very, very intense job. And so he was never around, almost never around. So once Rabbi Tabak was at this person's house, and maybe for Shabbat, and he noticed that this woman was like maybe the happiest woman that he had ever met. She was thriving and happy, and happy in her home, and happy, didn't seem resentful of all the responsibilities upon her. And so he asked her. He said, I have to understand something. He said, you're a mother of such a large family. You have all of these responsibilities on you, and your husband is almost never around. Like, you don't get any help from him almost, except for maybe on Friday. Like, maybe he takes out the trash before Shabbat. But you don't get any help from him. So how is it that you're so thriving and so happy? So the mother said, I decided many years ago that when my husband, took on this very intense job, I decided that if I was a single mother of all these children, that somehow I would manage. And I decided that I was going to do that. That I was going to be as organized as if I was a single mother. And, and if my husband helps me with something, I'm happy and I'm appreciative, but I don't expect it. And so I left that class that day. It totally transformed everything. Taking on that attitude of basically deciding I'm going to be as organized as if, my husband is away on that business trip and I have to have everything done by 7 o'clock. It totally took away all resentment. Why? Because I understood at that point, not only that I had to be that organized, and which is hard for me because I'm not a very organized person, but that I said that I had to be that organized in my home, with taking care of my kids, with taking care of my house. But beyond that, and more importantly, that I had to be that organized about taking responsibility for my own needs and taking responsibility for my own happiness. Seeing my class made me understand that I love my husband, and my husband supports me, and my husband helps me in many, many ways. But if anyone's going to make me happy, it's got to be me. If my husband takes care of his own happiness. He has a job that he loves. He learns Torah. He has different learning partners that he loves. And I need to take responsibility for me and for my happiness. And which means sometimes, let's say, my husband is out every evening. It means that my husband's out every evening either learning or working or teaching. So it means if I want to go out and do something that I'm going to enjoy, then, then I need to get a babysitter. I need to be organized. I need to decide, if I'm feeling like I need to take a class, if I need to be more intellectually challenged, then I'm going to organize it. I'm going to figure out the class that I'm going to take. Or if I want to get a job, then I'm going to look for a job. I'm going to figure out what I need to be happy. And it was amazing, amazing, amazing the way in which that attitude totally removed all resentment. So I want to bless all of us, that we should love our husbands so much, and that our husbands should love us so much. And, and that we should support our husbands, and that our husbands should support us. But that we should learn how to take responsibility for our own happiness. I'm going to bless everyone with an amazing, amazing week.
בן אדם, העצבות עולה ביוקר, השמחה שבלב היא חינם. אז מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, לעולם, לעולם, לעולם.